meaning you're carrying a weapon, you carry a handgun, and our concern is somebody wants to take the gun from you, grab the gun away from you, and how you defend against it. Now, we can't just begin with the idea of specific defenses. We have to first address the concept of a handgun. Now, when you choose to acquire a handgun, why do you do so? For personal protection, or for your job, in security, whatever it is. But you have to understand that wearing a gun, carrying a gun, changes your life. Changes your life. Changes everything. Changes how you go to the bathroom. Changes your wardrobe. Changes how you sleep. I remember when my brother got married and his wife was making the bed and she found a handgun under the pillow. What's going on over here? When you're in the Israeli army, they teach you your rifle is like your girlfriend. You shower with it, you sleep with it, it's with you all the time. You don't leave your gun behind. It's like your girlfriend. It's with you all the time. Or it should be, in a sense. You don't leave it. So when you make the decision to carry a weapon, before we begin to worry about gun retention, it's a whole world view. First of all, the way you dress. You have to decide. You can't wear just any old belt. You have to wear a belt that's strong enough to support a holster. You have to decide, what kind of holster do you want? You have to decide, are you going to wear it outside or inside? Some people have holsters like this that are outside. Other people have, holsters that might go inside the pants, okay? Some people like holsters that you could draw this way. There are holsters that you wear on your body that you can draw the gun this way. There are all kinds of different holsters. All different kinds of ways of carrying a gun. Concealed, open. You might want a gun that's easier to reach if you're in a terrorist situation. You might want a gun that's easier to hide. It all depends on your circumstances. Are you law enforcement? Is it something you just wear on specific occasions? So all this affects how you carry the weapon, and therefore it affects how you're going to fight to retain the weapon. But it begins with an understanding of when you wear a weapon, it changes your whole approach to your attire, your appearance. Now, you also have to understand that assuming the gun is visible, which it usually is in some sort of way, and again, it affects the way you walk. People that are looking for guns know how to find them. Okay? You're off balance. A gun can weigh 1.5 kilos. It's pretty heavy. It affects the way you walk. So you have to decide how you're going to approach this thing, how you're going to walk, how you're going to carry, how you're going to dress. You can't just wear whatever you want. You can't wear pants that aren't thick enough and strong enough to support this kind of weapon. But you have to understand the following thing. You're carrying a weapon for self-defense, but in a way you're making yourself a target as well. And that's a factor you have to take into account. Nothing has, everything has plus and minuses. Nothing is all good or all bad. A gun in the house could be a danger for a child. It could be a danger if your house is robbed. Someone finds a gun and takes it. Okay, you put it in a safe. Guess what? When I was robbed in this house here, they told me, anything man makes, man breaks. Man can make, barbed wires. Man can make, strong prison-like bars. Man can break them. A man constructs a house. A man can take it apart. There's no such thing that you can't take. And the same thing with a safe. People just take the safe, break off the safe, take it home. So there's always a downside as well. So when you're wearing a gun, if the gun is visible, which it often is, you have to realize now you're a target. So instead of walking around carefree, footloose, fancy-free, now you're a soldier. Now you're a police officer. Now you're walking around. You walk differently. If you're wearing a shirt, you have to be aware of the fact that your shirt might get torn. It might get stuck on it. You might reach for the gun and then you're like this, and you can't get the gun out. So it affects the way you dress. It affects the way you walk. If you're carrying a gun, I remember I would scratch my hand all the time because I'm always here I want to make sure it's still there. I didn't forget it someplace. I didn't go to the toilet and leave it next to the seat. I didn't go to a restaurant and leave it on the side. You sit down, it's uncomfortable. If you're walking along a wall, the gun side will be near the wall so you can feel safer. Someone can't come from behind and grab you, okay? You're always feeling the gun, making sure it's there. You're nervous about it, and you should be, because it's a deadly weapon, and if someone takes it from you, they can kill you and others. So when you have a gun, you're your whole approach changes. It's like crossing the street. You're looking right, left, center, like driving, you're always watching. So when you're carrying a gun, it begins with that awareness. I am a target now. I'm a much greater target and a much more valuable target than I was before. I've taken upon myself responsibility, and now there are consequences. I've got to be aware of this. I'm walking around with a gun. If there's an incident, I'm going to be the one to save the day, or at least try to. And I have to be walking around like this and having my hand over here, feeling it at all times, making sure I'm safe. I can't be just walking around like, hey, how are things? I have to always be thinking about this. It changes everything we do. I get into a conversation, I'm not sure if I want this ice cream or that ice cream, let me think about it. You can't be that way anymore. Those days are over. Now you're thinking, I'd like the ice cream, I have to decide what flavor, but I have to think about this. And I see people like this all the time in the mall, looking at the thing, gee, I'm not sure what I want. Do I want this one? And they're standing right there, and I feel like taking the guns from them just to show them. Now, yes, there are guns that are locked in a certain way. There are guns that have certain, they're tied in other ways. But again, barbed wires can be cut. Anything can be done. Press a certain way. You can learn how to use the weapon. There are certain protections. Again, it's the same like when my house is robbed and the police said you could put up alarm systems, barbed wire, etc. All this does is slows down the professional, makes it less attractive. But there's nothing that's 100%. That you could rob Buckingham Palace, you can rob the Queen's jewels, whatever. You have to be careful. So that's the first thing. We begin the gun retention training with the understanding that walk into this with awe. I'm carrying a gun. It changes the way I dress. It changes the way I walk. It changes the way I look around. It changes the way my hand is. My hand has to always be around here. I want to be aware of the fact. I want to be aware where the wall is. I want to be aware. I want to be aware. Constantly. Are you looking at me funny? Oh, because you saw the gun. Oh, you're looking at me? Maybe the person behind me. I got to be aware. But if I go like this, I can be arrested because it means I'm going to be pulling out the gun. In Israel, for example, you're not allowed to. It's a constant awareness. Do I want to put my shirt here? Do I want to put my shirt here? What if I need the gun and I made a mistake now? A constant awareness. So the topic of gun retention begins with understanding that it changes every aspect of your life. How you walk, how you talk, how you look at a menu, how you go to the toilet, how you dress, what outfit you wear. Oh, this is too thin. I can't wear this anymore because it doesn't have room for a belt. This pair of pants won't have room for my gun belt. It's thicker. Everything has to be taken into account. We begin with the awareness of what the gun is and how we have to look at the world differently. Okay, Krav Concepts Part 2 on the gun retention. We have to remember that when you're carrying a gun, like I said earlier, you become more of a target. You also become a person who's expected to do something. Meaning, if you're going to carry a gun, but you get a freeze, don't carry a gun. In Israel, we had a case several years back where we had the tractors attack, where Arabs were driving tractors and taking their legitimate work tractors into downtown Jerusalem and running people over with a tractor. So one guy who didn't have a gun went up to fight this guy, and he saw somebody with a gun, but the guy froze. He couldn't use a gun. So he said, let me have your gun. And he grabbed the gun, ran up the tractor, and shot the guy point blank and eliminated the problem. But the point I'm saying here is, with gun retention, if you're going to have a gun, but you're hesitant and you won't use it, the chances of that gun being taken away from you are greater. But I want to stress now another point. There's another case in Jerusalem where two guys were coming off their shift in the old city after doing guard duty, and they were going home, and they had their backpacks on. And they were pulled down from the back by Arabs who tried to get their guns. Again, you become a target. One of the guys fell down, and he fell on the side with his gun. Okay? He fell down, and he made sure to come here like this. The other Arab came and started kicking him, and kicked him in the head and so forth, and trying to get him to move. And he just held on here, and he took the blows. In other words, what we're trying to say here is, when you're carrying a gun, you have to think of the consequences of what will happen if that gun falls into the wrong hands. In some countries, it might be a criminal. In Israel, it could be a terrorist. Meaning, you can't just think of what's good for me. If this gun falls into his hands, this gun will be used to kill somebody. It will be used for a terrorist attack. So therefore, if I'm going to lie on the floor and protecting this gun with my body, and it means that I'm going to have 3 broken ribs and a cracked skull, that's okay. Better that than letting the gun be taken away. So you might think, okay, he takes my gun. Okay, I lost $750, whatever it is. No. He took your gun. In Israel, that means he's going to kill somebody with it very soon. And that blood is on your hands. So, again, in our context, carrying a gun means you're willing to give your life, in a sense, to protect the gun. You'll take a few cracked ribs, a cracked skull, a broken neck, whatever it is, take those blows like the guy did in the old city, rather than let that gun fall into the wrong hands. So we have to take that into account when we do our gun retention techniques.